Welcome back to the channel. Watch the video until the end, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel to support us. The North Star, also known as Polaris, receives many names that undoubtedly underline its importance in the entire celestial vault. Known for millennia, it has only recently revealed some of its secrets, thanks to the most advanced techniques of astronomical investigation. Here, then, is everything there is to know about this emblematic star. Finding the North Star is very simple. Look for the 7 bright stars of the Big Dipper, then focus on the 2 stars opposite the handle, called Merak and Dubhe. By ideally joining these 2 stars and extending their distance about 5 times, you will come near the North Star. If the sky is dark enough, around it you will find the other stars that make up the Little Dipper, coinciding with the constellation of Ursa Minor. It is important to dispel a myth. The North Star is not the brightest nor the largest in the sky. There are at least 48 stars brighter than it, so much so that, because of light pollution, we often cannot see it. Its brightness is more symbolic than anything, as, like a beacon in the night, it always indicates the north. The North Star is located at the North Celestial Pole, a very important point in the sky. The Earth rotates around its axis of rotation, tilted by 23.5 degrees relative to the direction perpendicular to the plane of the Earth's orbit, thus indicating 2 fundamental points in the sky: the North Celestial Pole and the South Celestial Pole. Consequently, during the night, it seems that the entire sky rotates around the North Star, which remains fixed at the center of this apparent rotation. The further north one is, the higher the North Star appears in the sky. At the geographic North Pole, it is directly overhead, at the zenith, although it is not exactly at the pole but near it, about 0.7 degrees away, slightly more than the apparent size of the full moon. The story of the North Star does not end here. In fact, it has been called polar only since the Renaissance. In ancient times, it was not located at the North Celestial Pole. Its closest approach to this point will be around 2100, when it will be less than half a degree away. This apparent movement is due to the precession of the Earth, which, over the course of 25,800 years, completes a full oscillation of the rotation axis, changing the position of the North Celestial Pole. Before the Renaissance, the North Star was too far from the pole to effectively indicate the north. It is said that Thales, in ancient Greece, was the first to suggest the use of Ursa Minor, and not specifically the North Star, for navigation. Although it is not the brightest in the sky, the North Star is the brightest in the constellation of Ursa Minor and is identified as Alpha Ursae Minoris. With the advancement of universe exploration, we have discovered that the North Star hides many secrets. It was 1779 when the English astronomer William Herschel, pointing his telescope towards the North Star, discovered that it was a multiple system. To the naked eye, it appears as a single star, but through a telescope, it splits into 2 stars, Polaris A and Polaris B. Later, in 1899, the American William Campbell observed that Polaris A also had a radial velocity, suggesting the existence of a companion, named Polaris AB. This companion was only seen in 2006 through the images of the Hubble Space Telescope, revealing that the North Star system is composed of 3 stars: Polaris A, Polaris A flat, and Polaris B. The most massive and luminous among these is Polaris A, a supergiant with a mass equal to 5.4 times that of the Sun, but in a volume 37 times larger. Polaris B and Polaris A flat, however, are much more similar to the Sun, with Polaris B having a mass 1.39 times that of our star, while Polaris A flat is slightly smaller, with a mass 1.26 times that of the Sun. To measure the distance of these stars, astronomers have used the technique of parallax. This technique is based on the principle that, by moving along our orbit around the Sun, we can observe a slight shift of the closer stars compared to the more distant ones. This shift is greater the closer the star is. Using the Hipparcos satellite, the distance to Polaris A was measured at about 433 light-years, while the Gaia satellite measured the distance to Polaris B at about 447 light-years. Polaris A is particularly important because it is a Cepheid, the closest to us of this class of variable stars. Cepheids are used by astronomers to calculate the distances of other, more distant celestial objects, such as star clusters or galaxies. Their brightness varies in a very precise manner. The brighter they are, the longer the period of their brightness variation. By knowing the period of a Cepheid, it's possible to determine its intrinsic brightness, and by comparing this with the apparent brightness observed from Earth, calculate the actual distance of the object. The brightness of Polaris A varies with a period of nearly 4 days, fluctuating between 1.8 and 2.1 magnitudes. The presence of the companion Polaris A flat has also enabled precise calculation of this star's mass, making Polaris A a fundamental object of study for understanding Cepheids. In the southern hemisphere, there is no equivalent to the North Star near the south celestial pole. There, we find Polaris Australis, known as Sigma Octantis, a much dimmer star than Polaris, with a magnitude of just 5.5, making it difficult to observe with the naked eye. To conclude, let's explore the presence of polar stars on other planets in our solar system. On Mercury, at the north celestial pole, we find Omicron Draconis, while at the south pole, Alpha Pictoris. Venus has 42 Draconis to the north and Eta Doradus to the south. On Mars, the situation is similar to Earth with different stars marking the celestial poles in various periods. Even on Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the polar stars vary, demonstrating the uniqueness of each planet in our solar system. In conclusion, the North Star holds a special place in the history of astronomy and navigation, remaining one of the most fascinating and studied celestial bodies in the night sky.